are going to talk about whether or not Lincoln Riley should sandbag Marquise Brown's injury. I'm not saying that he is, just whether or not he should do it or whether or not coaches do it as a rule. And all that's coming up after the bumper.
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. So it's OU related, college football related, sports related, we have a good time. And today we are going to talk about Marquise Hollywood Brown's injury and the conjecture around it and why Lincoln Riley is smart to say what he's saying even if he doesn't necessarily mean it. I'm not saying that he does. I'm just saying that it's worth talking about when we're talking about injuries and how they relate to star players and the list of questionable versus probable versus out versus doubtful, how these things work in the NFL and how these things work in college football. But first, I'll tell you about this t-shirt that I got. It says, Bama don't want us. For the folks that are having fun with Oklahoma being 3-1-1 against Alabama, and Alabama having not beaten Oklahoma since 1963 because whatever goes on in the Orange Bowl, Oklahoma is still going to have a winning record against Alabama. That's why that shirt works for the folks that ain't put that together yet. It's not just a pre-bowl game shirt. So before we get into whether or not Lincoln Riley and coaches in general are right to talk about or not talk about the injuries related to their star players, it's bowl season. And I'm excited about this particular bowl weekend because it's always the best bowl weekend on the calendar. One, it's got the most games. And two, you have some outrageous bowl names playing some teams that shouldn't be playing in bowl games and also ain't got no futures after this game. A lot of these players, they're not going to the NFL. They're going to get regular jobs. I'm really excited about it, and there's a few that I'm terribly excited about. One of them is the New Mexico Bowl between North Texas and Utah State. Now, North Texas has my favorite non-Power 5 conference quarterback. That is Mason Fine. He of Locust Grove. 3,700 yards passing. If he has his receivers available to him, we know that they can do some damage. Matter of fact, Seth Luttrell and Mason Fine are my two favorite quarterback and coach combos since Lincoln Riley Baker Mayfield. That said, this Utah State team is really, really good. Now, they just lost their head coach to Texas Tech, Matt Wells, but I still expect them to show up, put up a fight. That's why they're a 9-point favorite. And I am picking Utah State to beat North Texas 42-35, not just because they're the better team on paper, but because they got this guy on their team. He goes by the Night Runner. And just having this dude means that Utah State's going to win by 1,000,000. And for those of you that don't know, I do pick games regularly at OUinsider.com, and I take it very seriously. So when I give a winner, it ain't me just pulling stuff out. I actually do the research, and that's why my record is 87-53 this year, which means I made somebody a lot of money. I'm also 69-68-3 against the spread. RJ, be picking winners. By the way, for those of you that remember, I picked Purdue to beat Ohio State. Just saying. The next game that I think is going to be fantastic is the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl, which features Army and Houston. Now, this is cool because Army and Houston take their football seriously. I'm sad that D'Eriq King won't be able to play in this game because that would make this game just the must-watch one of the tiny bowl games. That said, Army was taken to the limit by Navy, but then again, Navy plays against that offense all the time, and Houston does not. Now you're playing without D'Eriq King and without Ed Oliver if you are Houston. So if you can get this win against an Army team that has won double-digit games this season, you got to feel good about yourself. If you're Army, you just pick it up right where you left off, and you start the season next year ranked, which would be a big deal. The next game I think is going to be awesome is the Cheez-It Bowl between Texas Christian and Cal. Now, Cal has been sneakily good in the Pac-12, specifically defensively. Like, they were able to hold Washington State down, even though Washington State won that game. And Gary Patterson is going through a QB change, where Sean Robertson has decided he's going to transfer, and they're going to see what they can get out of this dude from Penn going forward. But more than that, I want to see if the defenses turn this into a 9-6 game. That's going to be a lot of fun. I got Army beating Houston 35-32, and I got Cal beating TCU 34-20. The Academy Sports and Outdoors Texas Bowl, another ridiculous name, between Baylor and Vandy ought to be good. If for no other reason than I think those teams are evenly matched. Also, this is a Big 12 team versus an SEC team, and I believe that that's worth everybody's time, especially when we're talking about bowl records and whether or not one conference is stronger than the other. I think that's decided at the top of the conferences, but you like to have these wins if you're either conference, and because Baylor gets off so many snaps, and because Vandy looks like they can keep up defensively, I'm going to be watching that one closely. I've also got Baylor winning that game 40-33 over Vandy, even though Vandy's the favorite. The Valero Alamo Bowl might be the best styles make fights bowl game we see between Washington State and Iowa State. We got Air Raid versus Matt Campbell saying, we're going to just try to drop 8 into coverage and we're going to stop you from doing what you want to do, because we saw Iowa State basically hold down West Virginia and get that win by playing outstanding defense. And I want to know if that Big 12 defense can stop the air raid offense that is in the Pac-12. I don't think they're going to be able to do it, which is why I'm picking Washington State to win 35-30, but it is going to be a terribly interesting game. And of course, outside of the college football playoff, the New Year's Six Bowls are always really cool. Still, my favorite bowl is going to be the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl between Florida and Michigan. I believe that that is going to decide a lot about what we think about the Big Ten and a lot of what we think about the SEC. I think this Florida team should be able to beat Michigan, especially after what Ohio State was able to do to Michigan. But if you're Michigan, you also need this win, especially if you're Jim Harbaugh, to prove to people that you're still here to play. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think Florida's going to win 27-21. I just like this Florida defense, and I love those Florida running backs. All right, so now as to the point about whether or not Hollywood Brown's injury is indicative of how we use injuries today. In an age where everybody seems to know everything because of Twitter, because of Facebook, because the internet has basically ruined anybody who's tried to keep a secret, I wonder if some coaches just try to play it close to the vest because they can, to see how far they can take that. Now, we all know that as soon as somebody knows something to be sure, they're going to report it because that's what journalists do, and that's what I would do if I had the news. But if nobody does, then why would a coach say, hey, that guy's completely healthy, we expect him to be there? Gamesmanship, we know this. You don't want to tip anybody off to not having to prepare for someone if you can convince them to prepare for someone, because this is all gamesmanship. This is all what we show and what we tell. And Lincoln Riley is big on not saying what he doesn't have to say. So even if Marquise Brown was ready to go today, and I don't know that he is, I wouldn't expect Lincoln Riley to say that he is. I would also expect him to build up his other guys. And you've heard me go on at length about just how deep Oklahoma is in the wide receiving core, even though if you don't have Brown, you're losing 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns to go along with 75 catches this year. But you look at the NFL and you look at how they list doubtful, or they list questionable, or they list probable, or they list out. It's because the league mandates that you have to do that kind of stuff, because the injury situations can lead to you making some stupid decisions about a guy that probably shouldn't be playing football. It's one of the reasons why you have independent doctors to the teams when you're talking about concussion protocol. But I think we're going to enter into an age where coaches are going to play injuries even closer to the vest, because so many people have their eyes and so many people have their ears to the ground about what's going on with said player and how that affects the team. So I applaud Lincoln Riley for continuing to go about the injury news as if, yeah, if we get that guy to play, we'll be better. But if we don't, we'll be okay. Because he's real clear about the guys that absolutely don't have a chance to play. If you have a chance to play, he's going to say you have a chance to play. He's not going to give you 70%, 60%, 50%. He's also not going to give away his game plan by saying that, yeah, we're depending on this guy to go make plays. And I think that's the best way to go. And I think we're going to see more of that down the line. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.